Hello and welcome to
Create.
I'm delighted to be joined today by Dan Pearson, an Australian video producer who specialises in research, translation and impact. Hi Dan.
Ian, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you along. Would you like to introduce the conversation that we're going to have today?
Look, absolutely. So my work is exploring how academic researchers can more creatively translate their work to engage non-academic audiences. The main challenge is that the traditional ways that institutions have made videos, particularly for research, just isn't working as well as they could. A lot of institutions will spend lots of money, time, resources on producing really quite polished campaigns. And I think that's important, but increasingly they are very kind of dry, corporate safe. But ultimately, I think the biggest challenge is that they're not responding to, basically audience expectations for online content. The saturated media landscape of our social feeds, a corporate video is just not going to cut it anymore. And I think increasingly, one thing that particularly senior academics are kind of struggling to kind of realize is that the next generation of prospective industry partners watch YouTube. The next generation of prospective commercial collaborators might be on TikTok. And so I'm interested in how to explore these areas and, how we can sort of find more creative, innovative, ultimately more interesting ways to communicate research, translate research, engage audiences. And I think finally, one of the big challenges is the institutions will typically use video as right at the end. So you have a research project and then you'll use the video to promote some research impact. What I'm interested in is how video can actually be used for the realization of research impact. One is how, more creative use of video, but, comms more broadly can help researchers and institutions connect with high value audiences. So industry partners, as I said. But I think there's also really fertile ground for engagement at the intersection of academic research and popular culture and online and, sub and niche online cultures. I guess that's what I'm interested in talking about today.
So let's take a look at a few of those examples that you've picked out now.
So as an astrophysicist, I often get asked, what do you actually do all day? And I respond with, well, I try to answer questions that no one knows the answer to. But that's kind of still hard to wrap your head around, so I figured the best way to get that across is to show you.
The war in Ukraine has cast light on one of the least known countries in Europe, Moldova. Lying next to Ukraine, it too emerged as an independent state with the collapse of the Soviet Union. But in many ways, it's an accidental country.
Can you be so fit that you die? It's not really a question that personally keeps me up at night, but I did start to wonder why, over the last few decades, have so many cyclists died mysteriously in their sleep.
There's a subreddit called Buy It For Life where people post pictures of products that actually last. The idea is to celebrate a seemingly bygone era of super durable goods, which contrasts with the fleeting lifespan of the products we have today. You might dismiss this as simple nostalgia, but it's more complicated than that. Many of these products are older than I am. None of them are mine, and I've never seen most of the brands before. I can't be nostalgic for things I have no memory of. So why do I enjoy looking at this? I don't even know what it is. It's actually a flour sifter and it's about 100 years old. I want to use it.
Stupid fucking new normal sieve.
So first is Dr. Becky, your friendly neighborhood astrophysicist. Dr. Becky is an Oxford astrophysicist. She's been on YouTube for a few years. She has 700,000 subscribers. Her top video, A Day in the Life of an Astrophysicist at Oxford University, has 3.8 million views. But essentially, she kind of was getting annoyed at the trend of galaxy tights. So, the kind of leggings with space and stuff on them. So she made a video with basically saying, these aren't galaxy tights, they're nebulas. The video went somewhat viral, and that launched her YouTube channel. Dr. Becky has 700,000 subscribers, and her #1 video with 3.8 million views. If we look at the University of Oxford, so her university, they don't even have half as many subscribers. They have 289,000 subscribers, and their top video has only had 1.5 million views. So I think this just goes to show, one, the potential reach of the academic as a YouTuber compared to an institution. I think there's other people who'd be able to talk to the, that kind of balance between how people respond to individuals versus how they respond to brands.
Well, I think that's one of the interesting points actually in that is that Becky and the other researchers that academics that you've pointed out have effectively done this great job of crossing this kind of cultural divide between the institutional landscape and popular culture.
Look, definitely, and I think they can do it in a way that is, again, I don't have the research at hand to back this up, but I think there'll be plenty of people who will have looked into this idea that we seek authenticity, we seek a connection, increasing with social media, regardless of how you feel about it. Things like influencer marketing, people are seeking that kind of connection with somebody, rather than this sort of this huge institution. So, but what's interesting is, I think, and I guess one way of looking at it would be these academics doing this work, it brings in like huge reputational value. Now, Dr. Becky is a funny example because it's the University of Oxford. So in some regard, well, they don't need Becky's help as a YouTuber. So this is what I think is interesting. This is where I think like, second, third, fourth tier institutions would really benefit from some of these strategies and learning from this, because they're universities that really might. Number 2 is Midlife Crisis. So here's a consultant cardiologist and university researcher. Again, 550,000 subscribers, top videos, all with over 2 million views. Midlife Crisis, he is a researcher at UCL. And again, if we look here, UCL only has 36.8 thousand subscribers. Their top video with 500,000, close to 500,000 views, even though, again, we have a look, some of their top videos are pretty researchy. Here we go, Beefcake, Gay Men and the Body Beautiful, 1.5-hour panel with academics. That in itself could be a YouTube series with these academics, because that's pretty great. It's at 370,000 views over 11 years. But what is the potential of that type of content if they were to make like, 10, 50 videos on that subject? And then the last two, which I'll look at sort of together because they're both from the same institution. Professor James Kerr-Lindsay, 167,000 subscribers in international relations. Now, what I think is interesting about James Kerr-Lindsay compared to perhaps Midlife Crisis and Dr. Becky is his content is super niche. Here we have Romania, Moldova. Could they unite? Myanmar, a rebel victory. Myanmar, a rebel victory, has had close to 500,000 views in 1 month.
It's brilliant.
Now, what I think is interesting here is if I can imagine if Kerr-Lindsay went to, he's at LSE, if Kerr-Lindsay went to the LSE kind of media team and said, I want to make a video, I want to make a video about Myanmar, they're just not going to know what to do with it. This content worked really well, and I think that's one of the challenges is that institutions, they try to be too broad, for want of a better word. Their approach to online video is this broad brush, broad audience, appealing to as many people as possible. But what institutions they need to do with their online video is niche down, and create content like this. Myanmar, a rebel victory, 500,000 views. And the last example for business would be Unlearning Economics. Now, here we have 185,000 subscribers. Planned obsolescence will kill us all. 700,000 views in 3 months. This is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, I think this guy is a great brand. Like, I really, for a sort of YouTube content, I think he's really nailed the thumbnails. Good tone, bit funny. But what's interesting here is, again, another observation for most institutions is that they're very committed to the idea of short form content. They have these ideas that, talking heads are boring. No one will watch a video longer than 2 minutes. There are these kind of like rules that they're so steadfast to. But I think if we look here, that this 700,000 view video, it's an hour and 10 minutes long about planned obsolescence. Another video, Steven Pinker and the Failure of New Optimism, hour and 26. Jordan Peterson doesn't understand gender discrimination, an hour and 22 minutes. People will increasingly, and there are studies to prove this, that people now choose YouTube as their form of entertainment, as their form of television. So I think that these ideas that, one, that talking heads are boring. Well, yeah, because it's a boring talking head. The fact that it's a talking head isn't the problem, because if you look at YouTubers, there's YouTubers with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of subscribers, and it's just them sitting there talking to the camera for 45 minutes about something someone will be interested in. Look, LSE is an interesting example because they are a pretty niche institution compared to a lot of others. They're very specific in what they offer. And, some of their videos have performed very well. They have 235,000 subscribers. Their number one video, which is their introduction to their international relations program, has had 1.3 million views. And that's organic. That's like 9 years.
Well, Dan, look, that's incredibly interesting and apposite, I think, at a time when you use the word reputation, I think, where many of the university institutions around the world actually are seeking to build a reputation around research and innovation, that this translation of that into communication that reaches beyond the confines of the standard academic community is incredibly valuable. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your thoughts.